Welcome to Ability MKE Now on Riverwest Radio. My name is Sue Roskopf, and we're thrilled to be here as always. Ability MKE Now is a show about integration, bringing people together with disabilities and people that don't have a disability together, enjoying life here in the Milwaukee area. We all have different abilities, and here at Ability MKE Now, we dive into this topic of diverse abilities. The concept of disability hits a wide range of possibilities. We could be talking about physical or mental disabilities, the deaf and hard of hearing community, blindness, chronic pain, mental health diagnosis, goals of substance use reduction, and the list goes on. We all have our own experience with disability, whether it's our own or with people we know. Here at Ability MKE Now, we break down the barriers and celebrate the ability in all of us. We are excited for our evening here. We have some special guests joining us, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Emily to get us started here with our first introduction. Emily, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Our first guinea pig here is Robert Cox, who is in Pennsylvania and is a web designer and has a bed and breakfast. So I'm going to pass it over to Robert to briefly introduce himself.
My name is Robert Cox. I have Selfie in Design, and I'm a web designer, and I specialize in helping make websites accessible to those who have visual impairments, are deaf, or have cognitive impairments. And we get websites compliant with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines as much as they can be. I'm sure it's 100% compliance, but you can try to get them there. So we work with stuff like alt text, color contrast, captions, making sure there are headings so people can use screen readers and other devices that they use to access the web.
Awesome. And how did you get started doing this? Because it is an incredibly important thing, and a lot of people just don't even think about this end of things. So tell us a little bit more about how you got started.
Well, I got involved in it. A lot of the bed and breakfast here in Pennsylvania had a problem with website accessibility. And, most of them got accessible. Plus, my mom is visually impaired. She has corneal problems and glaucoma. Plus, she had a retinal detachment. So she has a lot of problems seeing the web and actually seeing some of the websites that I've done. And so working with her and seeing how she sees the world and interacts with the world helped me to see that there was a need to make the web more accessible to those who have a disability.
So with websites that you work with and that you encounter, we all are on a lot of different sites all the time. What is, I'd say, maybe a more common problem or top problem you tend to come across that are easy improvements, that if people just know what to do, or if they could come to someone like you to be counseled on what types of things would be very, very important solutions to help with their accessibility, what would you recommend? What kind of things do you tend to see?
Well, I think the biggest problem, and usually the most obvious problem at the first glance at a website, is whether the color contrast is enough. Oftentimes you'll see or in the text, you'll see this kind of lightish gray color on white. Well, sometimes you can't see that. And then there's a flip side. If you have totally black on white, then you have too much contrast. So you want to hit the happy medium where you're not causing eye strain, but you can still see things like text. So images on backgrounds or things like that. You just want enough contrast that people can see it. Alt text should be a problem, but there are now things that people can automatically add alt text, whether that's the best way to do it or not.
Well, I was going to add that also you may not want colors too bright, because I can tell
Correct.
you with my autism, and some of my other neurological things like epilepsy, that when it's really bright, it overwhelms my brain.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And
Sometimes you can have too much.
right, I guess I meant like too much contrast, like black and white, didn't seem like in the way that I experienced to be a big contrast, but it is realistically in terms of the definition of colors a major contrast. So I was kind of relative, and that's where I was going with that.
Oh yeah.
So,
And you're kind of getting into the cutting edge of the accessibility. The guidelines right now, the way they're written for contrast on paper. So they have a ratio of, you have to be 7-to-1 or 4.5-to-1 and then 7-to-1 contrast, but you don't want to go over 16-to-1. And white on black is the highest. It's about 21-to-1. But they have a new model that's out called the APCA, or the Accessible Perceptual Contrast Algorithm, which should be coming out probably in 3-4 years. But that uses contrast in a lighted environment. And if you're autistic, that would definitely help you much better than.
Do you know any WordPress plugins that help people with like business owners like myself with adjusting our website to be measured to these ratios?
Yes, there's one called WP Compliance Basic or Accessibility Basic plugin. That's one of them that they'll point out the major things. There's also a website called WebAIM, and if you look up the WebAIM color contrast checker, that will show you what you enter in your color codes for the colors you have, and you can see what contrast you have on your website. And that's one of the ones I use. And if you look up APCA, you can see a beta of that model, which is coming out.
I may want to have you, Mr. Robert, on my podcast called JAWS Mental Health Awareness.
Sure.
Because I'd love to hear what you have to say about like website contrasts and other tactics of, let's say not being too gloomy because of the all black. For in that case, it'd be depression, other low moods. But that this could impact other things like that aren't necessarily hard of seeing, like not necessarily all the way blind, but what people typically think of when they say needing accommodations to websites. They usually don't think of, like with me and my autism and stuff like that, it's neurological, or they usually don't think of mental health and too much black that puts their mood south.
Yes. Oh, definitely. And there's another added benefit to it, the making your site accessible. Like I have a site for the bed and breakfast, and I have a blog on there about butterfly gardens. And that site's as accessible as I can get it. But a side benefit of it is, before I really made it super accessible, I was getting eye strain just doing the blog. And now with the contrast right, I can sit there all day and I don't get the eye strain, even though I'm not disabled. So it can help everybody, not just the disability community.
Well, that's true, because a lot of people who don't have these conditions don't think about how much they're straining their eyes because of what you're pointing out, where it's so straining that even those that don't have these conditions to have sensitivities to straining, that their eyes end up having damage, like is it called stigma or something like that, where your pupils widen and look like cat eyes over time.
Yes. Where you get the redness. Yep.
Yeah, and the pupils become more oval instead of being the perfect round that you're born with. And it's basically where then it starts to let more light and stuff in to help you have vision. However that, biologically processes, but it's letting too much in, so then you end up having a harder time seeing. And that's one of the things they've linked to why it's pretty typical that the older generations, whatever generation, whatever point in history, that older people have a lot harder time seeing than younger people.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up. That's another thing that helps with the getting your site accessible to the guidelines.
Mhm.
Isn't, we have the disability community, which is often talked about, but also seniors. So you were saying that you start to lose vision, you lose hearing, can help seniors navigate the web as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't think of seniors as being disabled, but how many of them have, some kind of struggle, if you don't want to call it a disability, because maybe they still can work, but they've got heart problems, or they got hard of hearing or hard of seeing, or both.
Mm-hmm.
And like some people have made points on my podcast that as you lose your hearing, it's more likely that you have some kind of mental health like depression, because you're dealing with a grief and a loss.
Oh, yes.
So then with cases like that, the link to the need of what you do could even be possibly preventives of, these other struggles in life, by making this more known and getting more people, in your community or in our community, but getting these awarenesses of what you have to say to possibly help my generation not have as much of those troubles, because as technology is becoming pretty much every angle around us now,
Mm-hmm.
more over time, that we don't want to make it cause our generation a lot worse problems versus those that already have those issues that we couldn't foresee in their generations at whatever point in time of history.
Oh, definitely, yes.
I mean, think about how much more time in your and my lifetime we spend because we have a cell phone and not just a computer now.
We have access to a lot more stuff than we used to.
Yeah, like, and how many, of the modern day millennials, or whatever you want to call the generation you're talking about, that
So, well, actually, I'm curious about that with what you were saying with phones. So when you're doing the optimization with websites,
Yes,
does that carry over to phones as well, or how does that play into how you do things?
it does. In fact, I was just had a discussion earlier today with one of the web heads, which I'm part of.
I was thinking Kurt was going to come here, not me. But I guess. All right. I need one thing from you, if it hasn't happened already.
What just happened though? I was talking to, I think it was Corey or something like that, his name?
It was Robert.
Robert, okay.
So
what happened? Because this was random, and I was in the middle of a conversation.
That's because we were in a breakout room, and I'm not aware that you've filled out the guest agreement to be on the show. So I need to have you fill
agreement. I
out.
wasn't told anything about this.
Well, there's a guest agreement because we're connected with an actual radio show. I don't know why Kurt keeps coming in and out.
Because I didn't know there was such a thing.
You're taking care of that, or what's going on here?
No, I wasn't going to. I thought you weren't. Oh, you just don't have your camera on. I just put the link to it in the chat, but I'm going to go back out into the main room because I was going to introduce. I didn't even introduce Jen, and I was going to introduce Beth, and so I'm going back out to the other room. So Jen, if you could fill that out, there's a 3-question quiz. That would be great before you come back to the main room.
Us making it better for that that person that has perhaps the sight impairment, but it really truly makes it better for everybody.
Yes. In real life situations of this is think of doors going in door. You can either have the pull doors that you manually operate, or you can have the ones that automatically open, which were actually designed originally for people with disabilities to come in. But you know, look how many people who aren't disabled use those doors too.
And appreciate them.
It's easier if you're carrying a lot of bags.
Right. Yeah, I actually was at an event this past weekend where that exactly is, people were carrying things in, and the number of them that were struggling to get through the doorway because of stuff. And I kept pointing, because I was actually at the welcoming station for what was going on that day. And it's like, you can just go over to this other door, you can hit the button, and oh my gosh, it was like the world was lifted off their shoulders. You know, little things that were designed specifically because of, like you're saying, with perhaps wheelchair users in mind, that it has improved life for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But there's still work to do. I know with my mom, you know, when I take her to some of the eye doctors she has to go to, you know, and she has to fill out all the information as far as your health history and all that. I often ask, is there a large print form of this? Well, we didn't think of that. Well, if you're going to an eye doctor, you would think that they would know that maybe their patients might be having eye problems, or vision problems, I should say.
Yeah, of all places, that would be the one. But you know, you were able to make a difference that day then, to enlighten them on that concept of, oh yeah, why did I think of that?
Yeah, not every patient has somebody like me who can fill out the form for her.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's part of our goal with this show too, is just to help people think about things in a different way. And I mean, all the guests that we have on here, I get to think about things in a different way each time too, and just adding to my experience is different from the next person, and theirs is different from mine. So what can I learn from them that's going to help? And it's always a pleasure. And actually, that's kind of a fun piece of how you are here today too, because we've done a lot of networking with a group that we've mentioned often on here, this Happy Neighborhood Project. And the person that connected us together, I finally got to meet yesterday in one of our breakout rooms there.
Well,
Tom is a really good guy. And what is your connection with him? And actually, if you want to mention anything about what he all does too.
Oh, okay. Well, I know he does websites for contractors. He's very niche oriented in that way. But we actually met through what's called the Webheads United group. And we actually started last summer. And it was essentially a group of solopreneur web designers. We got together and we're trying to figure out how to help our clients and how to make sure the clients had a good experience with web designers. You know, we vetted each other, and you know, we follow our code, which makes sure that if you buy it, that they're treated well. That's how we met, and we often see each other every week or two or so on the Zoom.
That's always a good way to go too. The more heads that can come together on a topic, the more ideas and progression can happen so much faster and so much better. Kind of a brain trust of what you can all to others then, and improving everyone's business.
Teach them a lot about the accessibility and the web content accessibility guidelines, and I've learned a lot from them about the marketing, which I didn't have as much experience in. And so it's a win-win. We all get to learn different things that we, some of us specialize in other things, and they learn their thing and they learn ours, and vice versa. And so it's really nice.
That's fantastic. Because within the group, are you the only one that's really got that experience with the accessibility piece of it? Or were there others?
Yeah, there's one other, a guy named Tony Caggiano, and he's actually down in North Carolina. He also does accessibility type things. For a while, I was the only one, but now he's here. We're also working with two people in Philadelphia who they don't work quite on the web design end of it, but they work more in the real life end. They work with deaf-blind people. And we've been trying to figure out that part. They have not a screen reader, but they have a machine that actually makes Braille in real time. So
Wow.
people who are deaf-blind can interact with the web. And so we're both working with them and trying to figure out how to do something like that.
Interesting. That's another challenge that I know a lot of people don't think about, because how many of us know somebody who is both deaf and blind? And there was part of our history, actually, it deals with adaptive water skiing. And there was a camp, I don't know if they want to call it a camp. There was I think it was a weekend event. Gosh, I'm going back a few years now, over it was not here in Milwaukee, but it was maybe a 40-minute drive, and I can't even remember what town it was in now. But there was a gathering, like a weekend gathering of a good number of individuals. I don't know if there's maybe 30 in the group, that they were all both deaf and blind. And they had contacted us and was hoping to make the right connections to be able to offer an adaptive water skiing experience. That was a whole new animal for us, just thinking about what we do in a different way, because how do we explain what's happening? They can't see it, they can't hear it. Totally takes us out of our comfort zone and make us think about it in a different way.
Yeah, because a lot of what we use, we have to rely on one or the other.
Right.
And
to not have that.
Right now, we're kind of, well.
Amazing.
What now? And then, two in Philadelphia, one is Carly Archie, and they work with a group that does just this. They introduced us to this machine that apparently makes the Braille in real time for them.
Wow.
I guess for those that are lucky enough to know the Braille, like my mom, she became blind late in life, and trying to learn Braille now is almost impossible.
I've wondered how Helen Keller learned to communicate, because how that famous book is about, she didn't know how, or it's not that she didn't know how, but she couldn't see or hear. So how in the world did she learn the meaning of these certain movements that were on her hand, right? Like the different word textures I could see, because like it says in the book that the teacher or whatever they called it at the time would do certain gestures on Helen Keller's hand and then have her rub a teddy bear to associate textures. But where does that come into? She knows the word teddy bear and not just that feeling. And other forms of communication that we can't just touch. Like, how would that be in modern day? I mean, not that you would know, but it's just kind of like the wonder. How would that be in modern day of everything that we can see and hear on, say, this computer, right? Mm-hmm. Or cell phone or something, that all they can actually know is phone, laptop. At least that's what I would wonder, right? Like, because whether you're on the screen or I'm on the screen, it still feels the same.
Yeah.
And I'm going to back up just a moment and ask Emily to come back in here. We really didn't give Jennifer a good introduction here for everybody to know who she is and a little bit about her. And Emily, would you mind doing that for us and let us know who Jennifer is?
Yeah, we didn't even give one word of an introduction before. So she just randomly came on and started talking.
She's awesome.
But Jennifer is out of the Houston, Texas area, and has 5 podcasts that we are helping her with. 3 of them being on Mondays. And she is an author, tutor, among other things. So that's a little background.
Yeah, Jen, actually, do you want to share any more about what you do and who you are?
I just want to make an announcement for anybody who doesn't know. I know that somewhere on Facebook, there's an organization that's having a fundraiser that you can look up in Facebook groups called JENS, JENNS Books and More, and it's the actual and symbol and not word. JENS Books and More 31, the actual number 31 fundraiser. Anybody who likes supporting small businesses should check it out, but otherwise, I just happened to run across it and know about it and wanted everybody else to hear about it.
Awesome. All right. So, and we have just a couple minutes here yet. Robert, I want to bring it back over and ask if there was any other thoughts that you had that you want to make sure to share with what you do and with what your experience has been. Is there, or even if there's a success story that you have in mind that you want to share about what you've all done with the web content and the accessibility end of things?
Well, I guess my successes is just making sure to, or making people more aware of trying to get their websites accessible. And actually the web designers group, I feel like I'm having the most success there, and helping them understand it better, and then they can tell others and tell their clients as well. And I think a lot of it's just making people aware of the problems that are there.
Yeah, because that's that whole thing. You don't know what you don't know, and until that thought comes to you about, wait a second, there might be a better way. I might not get my entire audience, everybody that I can with my website, and if there's something I'm doing to hinder,
and especially when special needs people are the market. Like I used to have a tutoring company. Well, if I wanted to specialize in tutoring specialization or special needs, we might call it, then that modern day kid is basically going to be an adult. So if I want to, later be able to reunite with them to help them in a later chapter in life, then I wouldn't have thought before the pandemic, when I had such a company, that I needed to accommodate my website and, like you say, the title of blogs and so forth, to have a way to reach them in so many ways. And then because of that, I think a lot of people can benefit from knowing about you, Robert, and hearing what you at least have to share with them, to have some kind of awareness that I didn't even realize until having this conversation with you.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to get it out.
I mean, and I'm special needs myself too. I talked to them about autism and other stuff. Well, I didn't think that actually was such thing as doing changes to a website, or say even an app, possibly, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could help, in this case, even myself, or a market, who knows what people, for who knows what organization.
Oh, it definitely can help. Yes. And it's nice to
Right,
hear from you about the color contrast problems. It's good to hear real life situations instead of theoreticals you read on the news or whatever else.
Yeah, but isn't that so interesting, when I didn't even know about certain things you mentioned, even though I am one of the special needs myself, and I'm like, oh really? That's not just me?
So, and that's what we're all about here. So with Ability MKE Now, the more we can do with bringing new thoughts to the forefront and being able to be that catalyst in making improvements bit by bit, we're all making those changes and making things better all the way around. So I am grateful that you're both here. And Emily, thank you as always for being here. Kurt's been in the background. We haven't even gotten him on here to talk tonight, but for all of us here at Ability MKE Now, we thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Recording stopped.
Okay, so Riverwest is in the waiting room, so just in case they don't have their mics closed off, we're all set. We got our things turned off. So thank you guys.
So Sue, quick question with that.